this point in the season that you control your own destiny and that it's where you guys finish is in your control?
You know, I guess I can look at it from a fan perspective and the people who are interested in our program, and I probably would use those kind of terms. But in reality, if we don't do what we have been doing, you get out of sorts. The most important thing is preparing for the day's practice and then prepare for tomorrow's practice and try to be as moving toward the game we're playing on Saturday. I'm not going to allow myself to get caught up with if we do this, that's going to happen. I do know this. If we don't play well on Saturday, I know what would happen. And that's all I'm going to think about. Now, I'm happy that we've given our fans and alumni and supporters and the media something to talk about because, you know, we all realize, you know, that we need to try to win these next 3 games. But you can't win the third one unless you can't win 3 in a row unless you take care of the first one. And so the most important thing is just to stay focused on what has gotten us to this point and don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Don't allow ourselves to get caught up in the numbers game and the what if game, and we can't do that. That's problematic. Now, and I think what happens on our side, I realize, and we as a staff, that when you're in a place where you haven't been, sometimes it's hard to know how to get where you want to go. And so the fact that our staff has been here in other programs, in other places, that we realize that when you're in this moment, the best way to maximize it is to be realistic and stay grounded and try not to get caught up in the I guess the word is hysterical. What's the word?
Hysteria.
Hysteria. That could very easily happen. For instance, I thought that when we went to Indiana, that was a moment that was hard for us to duplicate, and our players, the look I saw in their eye, not being afraid, just adjusting to that atmosphere, because when you look back at the rich tradition of a program like Miami, it was similar. Indiana. It was very similar to the atmosphere that we had the other night against Louisville, and that our players had not experienced that. We had 6 new players, and not very many of the players, returning players, knew anything about what to expect. I also thought that emotionally, we were distracted a little bit when we went to Duke. I felt that both of those moments taught us something, and I thought we grew up, and we were much more prepared when we played in that moment, that same type of atmosphere against Louisville. It was we were involved, we were focused, we were in sync, and now we're getting ready to go into Clemson. Clemson has the game sold out, which is the games are not always sold out, which sends another signal that this is another opportunity they feel to pad their resume in hopes that they can win out and get to the NCAA tournament. So with that said, we're focusing on what we have to do to prepare ourselves to go play against a Clemson game where the atmosphere is going to be unlike anything that we've ever experienced when we've gone to Clemson. That's what you work toward. You want to get that level of respect, but when you get it, now you have to deal with it, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
You guys have had a lot of success going back to being a top 10 team on the road in the second game out at Florida. So it's not a new thing, but do you have to constantly guard against that, like talking to the guys about dealing with success, or do you feel like that's in the past?
Well, we've been talking about dealing with success all year. So it's not something that's new. They understand. They don't know how we feel. But being number one in the number one position in the ACC is a spot that we have not been to. So now what we haven't dealt with is the mindset that you receive when you go on the road, when you're in that position. And so much of the progress we need to make from here on out is how we handle it mentally and emotionally. physically, as long as we are healthy and we all got aches and pains and turns and things of that nature. That's what we deal with all the time. But the mental aspect of it, I think we are grounded now. I think we've learned our lesson. I think we've been through enough battles now with this team, and I'm mindful of. I want to remind you, we have 6 new guys that we're trying to work into the systems. That seems to have gotten lost in the shuffle, because we're somewhat inexperienced in a lot of areas. But I think we're overcoming it and finding somebody seems to step up when maybe some of the guys are adjusted to new circumstances. We seem to always find somebody to come through like we did the other night.